So glad you're with us on Retire Simply. I'm Brad Johansen with the Winsteads, Angela and Scott, as we talk about retiring simply. And you guys have created this with purpose, as everything that you do. And there's an acronym in Simply that I kind of want to start with the S today. Can we, Scott? And sheltering our money and figuring out a way to do that?
Absolutely. You know, we created Retire Simply so that folks could remember the 6 most important pieces that their retirement plan actually has to have. And as you mentioned, S in the word simply stands for shelter money. You know, at the core of who we are, we believe that you have to have a portion of your retirement money protected from the stock market going down. Some people call that principally protected. It just means, hey, this portion of my money, no matter what happens, can't be lost to the stock market. And it's so important. About 7 years before you're retiring to about 7 years into retiring, you know, that 14 to 15 year period that you don't take any big losses in the stock market in terms of your retirement money.
So the sheltering plan comes in multiple ways, Angela?
Yeah, there's lots of different ways we can look at it, but I think I like to just rewind a little bit.
Okay.
As a retirement planner, when we're talking about sheltering money, we're doing that because of risk. And people are comfortable with the word risk, but one thing that's different in retirement is any risk at all we consider risk. Why? Because you're not putting money in your savings anymore. You're not saving for retirement. So risk is a completely different animal. So let me explain what I mean by that. If you can lose a penny in your accounts, when we label them, they're labeled risk. So things that can do that are stocks, bonds. You can lose money in bonds. Everybody's been learning that lately. Mutual funds, variable annuities. That's one we see come into our office a lot. For us, we don't use variable annuities in our office because we're looking for things that don't have risk at all.
Okay, so in trying to figure out where I am risk-wise, because where I think I am may not actually be tolerance to capacity as far as what I'm dealing with risk. How do you assess people coming in on their risk level and risk tolerance and risk capacity level?
You know, it's interesting. I think we have to look at where people are in terms of, are we before retirement or are we in retirement? Because what happens, you know, after doing this a really long time, Brad, is people believe while they're working, they've got this great appetite for risk because they're saving and they've got years, and when the market goes down, no problem, I'm buying in and I'm doing all these things. A lot of times that switch gets flipped when you retire and you realize, I'm not putting any more money into these things. Like, what I have is what I have. And you start watching that number go down, and it's not going down because of the money you're taking out, it's going down by basically something you can't control. That's a very scary feeling for folks. And so we've got to make sure that we are asking ourselves the question of, if this account or when this account goes down, how much does it go down to where I still sleep really good at night? And for that, most people believe it's one number, and it turns out a lot of times it's a lot less than that.
Why does it turn out to be a lot less? I mean, when do you find out that it's a lot less than what I thought it was?
The risk number? Yeah.
Oh,
well, the big realization is the way that you retire is different than the way that you're working and saving. So having a portion protected, and there are a lot of different ways, or sheltered. There are a lot of different ways we can shelter that money. But what it does is it really sets us up for a solid foundation in retirement. You know, oftentimes in the conference room, I'm chatting with people, and I look at them square in the eyes, and I say, okay, you've saved this much money, great job. I know you're getting ready to retire in the next 2 or 3 years. How many chips do you want to take off the casino table? That is a decision that we make together, and we share with them why.
Because sometimes it's a frightening decision for a lot of people to say, I don't know whether I've got enough. Don't I need a little bit of risk? Don't I need to make sure that I have enough growth? How am I going to justify this if I don't feel like I've got enough? Maybe I haven't accumulated all I need to accumulate to this point.
Well, I think, you know, here's the deal. You're absolutely right. There's no cookie cutter one size fits all. It's not is all my money at risk or is all my money safe? It's a balance and a blend of these things. And you're absolutely right. You do have to have some money that is typically at risk to keep pace with inflation or outpace inflation and grow. The key, though, that you have to ask yourself is if when that bucket of money goes down, do I still have enough not affected by the stock market going down that I can weather that storm? If that storm's going to be, let's say, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, do I still have enough for that? Most people don't.
So in looking at what we're doing in sheltering our money, this is kind of what you talked about in the 7 years prior or 7 years during in figuring that number out. I think most of us sit and wait too long to try and figure the number out. We're left without a plan most of the time, which is a lot of the people who have yet to call and say, I'm afraid of this, I'm going to push this, or as we say, kick the can down the road a little bit longer.
That's why you feel nervous. That's why you're uncertain about retirement, because you don't have a plan, because you haven't taken the time to address some of these things that we address. They're scary, right? But the scariest thing is not knowing and not having a plan. If you have a plan, at least you have something you can fall back on. It really is the foundation to our retirement, because when you have some structure, it's okay to deviate a little this way and deviate a little that way. But if you have no structure and you're all over the place, good luck in retirement.
The invitation that you have for folks is what, Scott?
You know, I'll tell you this, if you're sitting there saying to yourself, man, I think I might be a little too aggressive. I'm nervous if the stock market goes down. I'm the kind of that cat on a hot tin roof. You know, when it comes to your retirement and risk and losing money, ignorance is not bliss. You need to know. And much like your health, you know, they always say early detection, right, prevents something serious. Same with your retirement. It may not be something that you want to deal with or you need, but you need to know this second. You need to know now before something happens. Right now, the stock market's doing well. You plan for the rain when it's sunny outside. You don't plan for the rain once it starts raining. We'd invite you to come in and visit with us. Take the time, 40 minutes, come in and let us help you look at it to make sure that when the market drops, you're going to be okay.
Are you sheltered? Did you even know whether or not you're sheltered? Have you accumulated enough? What's your risk tolerance? Do you have any idea what your risk capacity is? How about somebody helps answer those questions for you? We can do that to help you retire simply. So if you've been waiting to ask the questions, don't wait any longer. Let us help. Pick up the phone. Make a call. 844-861-5203. Let's retire simply together.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carol and 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there or be square. Happy birthday to you. As you can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion...
Ben, do you have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
So glad you're with us on Retire Simply. I'm Brad Johansen with the Winsteads, Angela and Scott. As we're talking about retiring simply, we start with the acronym of S, sheltering our money. And we've talked about market volatility that we've seen over the last several years. And you just said it before we went to break. Market's been pretty good. Why can't we ride that? Because once we sit in the market that's really good, we go, well, this is going to last for a while. What about sheltering your money and the risk that's going in with the market volatility, especially in an election year like we have right now?
Yeah, I think, you should take advantage of when the market's going up. Absolutely, we want some risk, but I think it becomes, how much to take, and when things start to turn, right? What do you do with your money? No, we don't subscribe to market timing. We believe no one can time this thing.
Yeah.
So it's a balance between knowing, hey, this is at risk, this is going to grow, but this is safe. My grandpa was a hog farmer, pig farmer, right? He raised chickens, raised hogs, and he used to say, Scott, he'd say, pigs get fat, but hogs get slaughtered, right?
I've heard that.
And what we want to make sure is that we're on that pig line, right? We're there and we're getting fat with the returns, but we're not trying to be so aggressive to get every return that we get slaughtered. And it's a huge lesson that most people find out and learn the hard way.
How do you adjust within that? If we can't have a crystal ball and figure out the market, how do we adjust within that sheltered zone?
It's balance and organization. So one of the things we're talking about is money, right? And we want our money to last longer than we do. We want it to be as efficient as possible. So organizing our money, and one of the ways that we do that is we have a bucket that is sheltered. When we have that foundation, it allows us to take risk in the market. It's okay for the market to go up and the market to go down because we have something else we can rely on. But this is the issue, Brad. When most people come in and visit with us, all of their money, except for what's in the bank, all of their money is in the market. It's all has some kind of risk.
Why is that so common?
Because that's how we work and save. That's what you should be doing. Well, for the most part, you're working and saving through your younger years, and it's all about the growth. You want your money to grow. But in retirement, that's when everything flips. And it's not so much about the growth. Yes, we want some growth, but it's about the money we keep because we've already been working and saving all of these years. So it's a completely different approach. Sheltering a portion of your money is the only thing that gives you flexibility when the market changes up and down.
If we are all in this big bucket of trying to accumulate throughout all of that and say, well, this is what we do. We work and we accumulate. How many of those people are going without a plan because this is just the way we do it?
Yeah, I think a lot of times folks are going without a plan, and it doesn't necessarily mean, well, I guess they have a plan if they don't have a plan, right? That's still a plan. But there's a difference between an investment strategy. Most times when we ask folks, hey, tell me about your plan in retirement. What do you have going on? The response is this. Oh, I'm a 60-40 investor, or I'm a 70-30 investor. That's really just the way your money's set up. That's not a plan, right? A plan is a holistic look to take into account all the things that could come down, right? Market's high, market's low, high taxes, low taxes, somebody gets sick, somebody gets injured, all the things that could happen, that's a holistic plan. And retirement, we always say, is a funny thing in our office. It's one of those few things in life, Brad, that if you do it right, you do it once.
That's right.
And nothing can derail someone's timing on when they want to retire faster than taking a loss in their accounts that they weren't prepared for, which either forces them to A, either live on less, which no one wants to do, or B, have to work longer and hope that their accounts recover quick enough.
Is there a strategy based simply on age? Because we hear a lot of people talk about, I've got a strategy kind of like my neighbor, I'm the same age as he is, or I'm a year younger, or I'm a year older than that. Do we hit a certain age where everybody says, here's what you're supposed to do? I mean, that could be lumped into Social Security when we start looking at our income, right? This is what I'm supposed to do. Why would I need somebody else's plan?
That would be easy if that was true, right? That would be so easy. We'd all know how to retire very simply. Yes, there are certain things that come into play at different ages, and it's true for most all of us. The older we get, the less risk we're going to want to take. But we all have individual needs in retirement. And let me just say it very simply. I have some people who in retirement, they need $2,000 a month. It covers everything. Their house is paid off, everything like that. I have other people riding high. They need $23,000 a month. Do you see there's a huge variability in that? And they're probably the same age. So one of the things about retirement is it is so unique to you. It's so unique to your desires. It's so unique to your needs. Some people can take more risk than others, but regardless of your needs, as you age, you want your risk to come down.
And I think that's well said. You know, it reminded me of a story, Angela. A couple came in and they said, yeah, we want to invest like this. And it was really, really aggressive. And this couple didn't have a whole lot of money.
Okay.
And I said, well, where'd you come up with that? Like, give me a little background here. And they said, oh, our really wealthy friend who has millions and millions of dollars said this is a great thing for us to be looking at right now to make money. I had to have a little bit of a conversation. Here's how it went. Your friend who has millions and millions of dollars, if that aggressive investment doesn't go right for him, it goes wrong, he's okay. He still has a couple more $1 million. If you invest like that and that thing goes wrong for you, you may never retire. And it kind of hit them like, well, I never thought about it like that. Most of us think, well, if somebody's really wealthy or somebody, you know, is good at this and they've got more money than me, I should follow what they do. The more money you have, the more risk you can take, right? The more you can bear to lose. If you don't have a lot of money, you better start looking at ways to shelter.
This is kind of how people walk in, and within that conversation, that's why a lot of people don't want to have the conversation, because they go, I wish I would have done what my millionaire friend had done because he told me I should have done this. Then there's fear, then there's anxiety, and there's shame. I haven't done enough. I didn't do it the right way. I haven't accumulated enough. So I'm not going in and amplifying all of those feelings with somebody who says, you're probably in a different place than your millionaire friend. How many folks have come in that you go, we've seen this before. Mm-hmm. We can adjust to this.
Most of them.
Most of them.
And what you're talking about, Brad, we have a rule in our office. It's no shoulda, woulda, coulda. We are where we are right here, right now. Let's take what you've got and let's make it as efficient as we possibly can. You know, we have lots of insights. We know how to do things differently than people that are just investment advisors. And I don't mean just, but that's all they do. We're holistic planners. So let us look at this with you. Let us spend 40 minutes with you talking about what's important to you. What do you really want? And how can we make that happen as efficiently as possible and in such a simple way that we're planning together?
If the plan isn't what you thought it was, and you're thinking, maybe I don't have enough, when would you like to know? Now's the time. Let's put a plan together for you. Set up an appointment for a complimentary plan that's not like your millionaire neighbors or your neighbors down the street or anyone else. It is your plan to retire simply. 844-861-5203. Let's get it done together.
We have a very specific way that we love to help people plan. It's actually a trademark system, and we call it RetireSimply.
When we put together your plan, it is on one page. We use this plan as a really easy way for you to organize in your mind what your money's doing and how it's behaving.
We have made an acronym to make it very easy to remember. Simply stands for S, shelter your money. A portion of your retirement savings has to be protected from the stock market going down. Very important. I, income generation. Without income, you don't have a retirement. How do you maximize your Social Security? What's that sit on the porch number that it takes you every month just to exist in retirement? M stands for Medicare and long-term care planning. Alleviates all of that burden that might come down the road. P stands for protecting your legacy. You know, you've worked hard all of these years to save, so let's make sure that it gets where you want it to get to in the most tax efficient and best manner. L, something we're very passionate about, means less to the IRS. We've got to have a plan so that we are paying the least amount of taxes to get you to and through retirement. And then lastly, yearly strategy visits.
Having it organized this way is what gives us the ability to be flexible and nimble. So when, not if, but when our retirement environment changes, we are always in a good position to be able to get you the income that you need in retirement.
Your plan is a living, breathing thing because you are a living, breathing person. So it takes constant monitoring and constant updating to make sure your plan's always in line with the retirement vision you have.
So at Compass Retirement, it's all about retiring simply.
So glad you're with us on Retire Simply. Brad Johansen with the Winsteads, Angela and Scott, and we're talking about sheltering money, which is the S in Retiring Simply. You guys talked about the buckets. I don't think we can reiterate it enough that people have to have their money balanced within those buckets. Do you want to take us through that again?
Yeah, absolutely. We believe that, in retirement, you have to have money in different buckets doing different things. And most people say, yes, that absolutely makes sense. So we've broken it out into 3 very simple buckets. We've got a green bucket. That's our cash bucket. That's the money in the bank. One of the great things about the green bucket is we know that when the market goes down, that baby's not going down.
Yeah.
It's in the bank. However, throughout your retirement, it really doesn't earn that much, but we need some money there.
Okay.
Our next bucket is our blue bucket. That is our shelter bucket, and that's what we're talking about today. This bucket can't lose money when the market goes down either, but it tends to grow a little bit more than the green bucket. So that's very advantageous for us in retirement.
Okay.
And the last and final bucket is the red bucket. That is the bucket that most everyone is used to in retirement, and when they're saving, that's the risk bucket. So think about that as what you have your 401k in, or your IRA or something like that. We know that when the market goes down, can it lose? Absolutely, and it can lose very fast. But over time, the red bucket, the risk bucket, actually grows faster than all of the others. So one of the keys in retirement is making sure that we reorganize so that we have balance between the buckets, and that provides longevity for our money and for our joy in retirement.
Yeah, no question. If we're going to adjust, the term diversification will come up, and you'll have people come in and say, oh, I'm really diversified in my portfolio, when they find out that a lot of things in their portfolio are the exact same things and they didn't know it, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of times, we call that overlap, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I own this fund of technology stuff, and inside is Microsoft, Apple, Google, all these tech companies. And then you look and you say, and I own some stocks. I have Apple stock, Microsoft stock, all of that. But because this fund over here is named something clever, you didn't really realize you own Apple in 19 different things, or you own Microsoft in 19 different things. And then you get confused on, well, I thought I was diversified, so when one goes down, the other's supposed to go up, but it all went down. Diversification is also another thing where a lot of times when people talk about what type of investor they are, the 50-50 or the 60-40, what they're really saying, and you might be sitting there saying, yeah, that's me, I'm 60-40 or I'm 70-30. Really what that's saying is where your money is, right? Hey, 60% of my money is in risky things, 40% of my money are in safer things. Now that's the safe part is really what we're talking about today. Safer in that type of thing, maybe bond mutual funds or bond index funds or something like that, those can still lose value too. And normally, when one goes down, the other goes up, and we have this teeter-totter, right, that we try to balance here. Except for something like 2022, where not only did the risky stuff go down, but the safe stuff went down too because of inflation and interest rates, right? Yeah. And now you're sitting there saying to yourself, well, gee whiz, that stuff that was supposed to keep me afloat when the market wasn't doing so hot, well, that went down as well. That's where getting that portion of the money in that blue bucket, right, that sheltered bucket, where you're safe, meaning you can't lose a penny, that's where it makes a big, big difference in your overall retirement picture when the stock market goes down.
Overall retirement picture, we talk about that a lot. I want to go through kind of the idea as we wrap things up, because we're running out of time. The holistic plan, because we consistently on this show talk about taxes, how those mix with Social Security. Have you thought about long-term care, whether or not you're needing that? Have you looked at your family tree and the longevity that goes within that? Have you talked about diversification? Do you know whether your risk tolerance is where you think it is? And have you done the math on all of this? Why is a holistic plan different than what so many people who may be doing it themselves or talking to an advisor who's never talked about many of these things? How is this different for people to come in and say, holy cow, I never heard it talked about this way?
Well, number one, we'll talk about it in a way that we understand, right? So we're not talking over you or at you. We're talking together as we're talking through all of these things. And retirement needs to be orchestrated. You know, when you're working and saving, you can make decisions in a silo. You can make a decision about your 401k then, and it's not going to affect your Social Security and the taxation. It might not affect your Medicare premiums. It might not affect your required minimum distributions. All of these things get connected in retirement, and I believe it takes working with someone that understands the intricacies of it, that can talk to you in a way that makes perfect sense so that we can decide together how to harmonize all of it so that you have a great retirement.
This is that perspective that we've talked about so much, Scott.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the things that's so important to Angela and I is being fiduciaries, licensed for everything, being independent, meaning we can go get any tool that's out there from any company that we need to. It's about what's the vision that someone has? What's the vision that they want this thing to look like? And how do you get the stuff you currently have set up in a manner to get this vision that you want? That's the whole name of the game. Going and figuring out the tools is easy. You know, most people evaluate their retirement plan kind of like this. Well, should I use a stock or a bond? Should I buy an annuity or a life insurance policy? Should I fund long-term care with a long-term care insurance policy, or should I do it self-insure, right? When you start talking about those things, what you're really talking about are tools. And they're all simply tools. None of them are good and none of them are bad. It's how they're applied to your plan, right? You know, it was funny when my son was little. I was working on an electrical socket replacing the plate that he had cracked with a baseball bat as he was swinging it in the house. And I was getting that plate and I asked him, hey, can you go get that screwdriver? And he said, yeah. And he brought me a Phillips head, but it was a flathead screw. Not a bad tool, just not the tool I needed.
You got the tools that folks need to retire simply. We're so glad that you've spent your time with us. Take that next step. Use all the tools in your toolbox so that you can retire simply. Make the phone call, 844-861-5203. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.